Hey everyone, Tactics here, and in this video I'll be going over all of the major changes coming to the game with patch 11.1. New patch hype is of course in full swing, and with that I will be releasing a ton of Mythic Plus, Raid, and Tank Guide content in the coming weeks, so if that sounds like something that is interesting to you, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Now, there are quite a few significant changes coming in Season 2, and just to be fully transparent here, I'm going to be specifically focusing on the changes to the three main types of PvE content, so that's Delves, Mythic Plus, and Raiding. Sorry, PvPers. But there also are a few general things that I did want to quickly touch on as well, which are quite interesting, and the first of that is the new ground mount system called D.R.I.V.E. This is basically how you're going to get around in Undermine, and while you have the option to use your regular ground mounts here, this is significantly faster. It's kind of like what dragon riding was when it initially came out compared to regular flying. I haven't done a ton of this on the PTR, but it looks very cool, and I am interested to see if it's received well and then potentially even adapted to the rest of the ground mount system, again, kind of like dragon riding was. Outside of that, a commonly requested feature as soon as warbands were implemented was the ability to unlock and change the camp screen, and now that is being implemented with patch 11.1, so you're going to be able to earn and unlock these various camp backgrounds that you can show off on your warband screen, which is just kind of a cool new cosmetic thing for players to collect. Now let's jump into the PvE stuff. So let's talk about Delves. With a new season, there is going to be a new mount. This one's the Delver's Gob Trotter, and this is going to be, you're able to get like parts and stuff, as well as full skins, similar to the Dirigible of Season 1. There's also a couple new Delves coming that are themed around the Undermine patch and Excavation Site 9 and Side Street Sleuths, which are going to be available along with all of the previous Season 1 Delves and a new kind of bountiful rotation system to make it a bit more consistent. There's also a new Pinnacle Delve boss in the Underpin, and because he's a goblin guy, there's going to be goblin mobs kind of spread throughout all of the Delves now instead of Zekvir minions. Brain is also receiving a pretty significant update, so he's now gaining a tank spec. He's had his level cap increased from 60 to 80, and don't worry though, your brand level is going to be retained as you move into Season 2, so you don't need to re-level him up all the way from 1. His curios are also reset, and there's an entirely new set of them coming in Season 2. They've also kind of adjusted how curio upgrading works, so they're always going to increase by 1 level when you find a new curio, but to make up for the fact that you can't skip levels anymore, the drops are much more consistent, including guaranteed drops from bountiful chests. They've also decreased the relative difficulty of tiers 9, 10, and 11 from Delves, as previously they were balanced around people with, higher, even mythic difficulty gear, and now they really want to make them balanced around just the gear people are getting from Delve. So a Delve player is going to feel a lot better about doing the 9, 10, and 11 difficulty tiers than they were in Season 1. On top of that, another big win for Delve players is you can now obtain Gilded Crest consistently from tier 11 Delves. They'll drop 7 per tier 11 Delve, and this is capped at 21 per week. So you can't get all of them from doing tier 11 Delves here, but you can get more than you did previously, and that's going to be nice for upgrading gear. Also, the other kind of heroic crest drops from that bracket of like 8 to 11 has just been generically increased. So again, more crests for Delve players. The treasure maps that drop from Delves have also been adjusted, so this is now going to drop after a static number of Delves instead of being RNG, and it's going to be weekly capped at 1 to account for the fact that you're going to be able to get these more consistently. Next up, let's talk about the raid Liberation of Undermine, which features Gallywix as the final boss in a ridiculous Mimron's Head style mount, which of course drops on the mythic version of the encounter for anyone that wants it for themselves. Now, the big thing about this raid outside of the really cool theme is the brand new Renown track that is coming with it. So you can basically gain 2,500 renown per week by killing both bosses and mini bosses. A total of 5,000 is available in the raid, so you don't need a full clear the raid to get this. Just about half of it is going to get you all the rep you need to fill out your 1 renown per week, and it also already has a catch up built into it for players that come in later. Now, what is actually part of this renown track? Well, things like the stacking warband raid buff, like Severed Strands. We've also got the raid skip that is in the round track, as well as a ton of battle pets, mounts, and even the ability to buy any transmogs that you're missing, all part of this Renown track, which is pretty cool. Now, there was actually a dinar-like item, the puzzling cartel chip, that was previously a part of this Renown track, which would allow players to buy any raid item they wanted and upgrade it up to the myth track item level. The main feedback on this was that people were not happy where you were getting it. It was going to be dropping, I think, week 16 of the patch, which is very, very late. And so Blizzard actually did opt to take it out of the Renown track and move it elsewhere. We don't currently know where they've moved it to or when exactly we're going to be getting it. Once we do, I'll probably post a pinned comment down below. But that is something to look forward to, as they have confirmed that they still plan on putting it in the patch. So if you're someone who doesn't re-clear Mythic very much, or maybe you're a Mythic Raider that doesn't get Cutting Edge, or you're just someone who doesn't Mythic Raid at all, you're going to be able to at least get some of your really powerful, very rare items or trinkets or something you want from the raid at Mythic eye level. And then that brings us to Mythic Plus, where of course you're going to be getting a brand new dungeon pool. This features the 4 remaining War Within launch dungeons, an entirely new dungeon being made for this patch, and then 3 returning dungeons in Mechagon Workshop, the Motherlode, and Theater of Pain. There are some big and some small changes coming with Season 2, so let's start with these small ones. First up, there's a new bargain affix called Pulsar. This replaces the Oblivion affix, which is the one where it spawns a bunch of orbs all over the place, and they kind of slowly move in. You have to soak them. It was kind of problematic on some boss fights. Pulsar is now basically, you have these orbs that rotate around each player, and you need to soak the orb from one of the other players in your group. Much easier to handle, much easier to tune around and not have it interact poorly with other boss mechanics. They've also unified some of the enemy buffs if you fail the bargain affixes, so now it's always going to grant damage done and damage taken decrease to them for 20 seconds, as opposed to being, you know, sometimes this heals them, sometimes it gives them a ton of haste and stuff. Now it's very consistent. You know what bad thing is going to happen if you mess up. They've also made Voidbound, which is one of the more annoying affixes, a lot less annoying. It used to just previously instantly buff everyone and channel and buff them as the channel continues. Now the buff only happens at the end of the cast, and it's based on how much shield is left. So it makes these guys a whole lot easier to handle because they don't instantly stack up a DR on the pack. Those are the small changes. Let's talk about the big changes, which we did also briefly cover in a previous video on the channel, but I'll give you guys the spark notes here. Basically, they're making significant adjustments to the Mythic Plus scaling, the affixes, and the rewards. So to start, Mythic Zeros, they're now rewarding champion track gear and moving to a weekly lockout. To account for this, they are increasing the difficulty of Mythic Zeros. Now, this does tend to happen on a season-to-season basis, and it appears they did this just a little bit more this season, so it doesn't seem too super out of whack in terms of difficulty. From there, +2s through +10s have had their scaling decrease to 7% damage and health per key level, which was 10% in Season 1. Once you hit 11s and above, that still scales at 10% per key level, but having all of these lower key levels scale at a much lesser rate has a pretty significant impact on the overall health and damage scaling, even as you get into the higher key levels. Challenger's Peril, an affix a lot of people disliked, has been moved. So the additional scaling on the Xal'atath's Guile affix coming at +12 has been removed entirely. So there's no bonus scaling on top of all the other affixes. And instead, the death penalty of Challenger's Peril is appearing at +12, which drastically, I think, reduces the difficulty jump, not only for 11s and 12s, but also from 6 to 7, because that was an affix that was very, very punishing for players coming in and still kind of learning the dungeons around those key levels. There's also been an affix shuffle accordingly, as Challenger's Peril, as I said, is gone from 7. So Bargain now starts at 4, which means there's no affix on +2 and +3. The first of Fort and Tyrannical comes in at 7, where Challenger's Peril previously was. And then the second one still comes in at +10. And then, of course, you have the Challenger's Peril, which is now Xal'atath's Guile, coming in at +12. Overall, the difficulty curve here is just way, way smoother in Season 2 because of this affix shuffle and because of the scaling adjustments here. So I think players are going to have a much better time, especially Pug players, because that was something that Blizzard specifically wanted to target at making this easier for Pug players. In terms of rewards, there's a bunch of adjustments as well. Hero Track Gear is now available earlier at the +6 key level. Gilded Crests are now available earlier at the +7 key level. So now if you want to farm those things, you can do that at a lower key level. It's a little bit easier to get them and makes those key levels a bit more rewarding, a bit hopefully plentiful in LFG, because there was this key bracket where it was kind of hard to find people in these lower keys because people were just doing delves to get those rewards. So happy to see these reward increases for those Mythic Plus key levels. There's also a new stretch goal for people who want to reach 3K rating, and that is Keystone Legend. This grants you the Enterprising Shredder tank, and this is on top of the fact that the Keystone Master Mount and the Keystone Hero stuff all still exist. So this is just another stretch goal for anyone who want to get 3K rating, which again is going to be easier now in Season 2 because of the scaling adjustments than it was in Season 1. This is now your stretch goal. They've also added key floors in for players that are pushing above that plus 12 key level. Basically means that if you time all of one key level starting at 12, then your keys can no longer deplete below that level. So if you time all 13s, all 8 dungeons and 13s, your key can no longer deplete below a 13. And that goes all the way up to, I think they put achievements into like 25. Don't know if we're going to see a 25 next season, but basically, it's a really, really nice way to not have your key kind of decay over the course of the season. You want to take a few weeks off, you can do that, and your key is still going to be at a decent level, which is really, really nice for key pushers. Overall, a lot of positive changes, I think, coming across the board for Delves, Raid, and Mythic Plus. I want to know which one you are most excited for, though. Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we've got a ton of guide content coming your way very soon. As always, I need to give a massive shout out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for making all these videos possible, and I'll see everyone in the next video.